everybody, and welcome to The Picture Show. My name is James Farrar. I'm the host today. And joining me is Shaquille Jefferson. We are actually going to be talking about the Jay and Silent Bob Reboot movie today, which comes out tonight. But before we get into the movie, why don't we go ahead and just take a look at the trailer?
All right, I know you're in there. Come out right now. Drop the plans.
This son of a bitch doesn't have a...
He's got him. He just got it tucked in.
Identify yourself!
I'm Jay, and this my hetero life mate, Silent Bob.
Don't tell me you guys have no idea there's a new comic book movie being made of the old comic book movie you two are the basis for.
That old-ass star-studded piece of shit, that movie sucked.
Your Honor, I object.
I'll allow it. That movie did something.
We got 3 days to get to Hollywood and stop this reboot from ever happening.
Boys, I had a baby. Jay, brace yourself. You're about to meet our love child.
I think I'm gonna need to see a blood test.
No, Jay. This is my daughter, Millennium Falcon.
Can you take us to Hollywood with you?
No, man, it's a tough-ass neighborhood.
Either you take us to Hollywood, or I stab you both to death on my own front lawn.
And on that note, we cue the music.
Jesus!
I'm glad you guys are smoking back there. I was driving someone about a week ago, and he took a big shit. You have no idea how hard it is to get the smell out of pleather.
No methods. Let's do this.
Yay! It's Jay and Silent Bob.
I just found out I have a kid, but I don't know how to be a father.
Anybody can be a father, but only love can make you a dad.
How you gonna talk about love and you all over the place? That shit's unseemly, bruh. What do you guys think about this reboot?
It sucks. There, I said it. And who's directing this shit anyway? Kevin Smith?
Smells like this reboot went up in smoke.
Welcome back in. That was the trailer for the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. It looks really funny to me. But I wanted to start out by talking about kind of the overall view Eskuniverse, as they're calling it now, because this is actually the 7th in a line of movies that all sort of go together, that have similar characters. A lot of the same characters appear throughout, even if the movies don't really go together. And Jay and Silent Bob are actually the only two that appear in all the movies. Have you seen them all yet?
I haven't seen all of them. I've seen Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back and Clerks 2.
Yeah, well, it includes, it starts with Clerks, which came out in 1994, and then Mallrats from 95, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, and then the reboot is the 7th one. They're actually planning a Clerks 3, so they're going to continue, they're going to keep this thing going. But so it's been around a while. These characters have been around a while, and of course Kevin Smith, who plays Silent Bob, has written and directed every single one of them. It was really kind of interesting when I got to looking into it. I know you did some research in it too. There's a lot of different media with some of this stuff, with some of these movies. They've got video games, they've got comics and everything else. But I wanted to kind of go through the timeline of it just to see where the characters came from, so we know how we got to this movie. Because like I said, this movie hasn't come out yet. So although Kevin Smith did describe it as being basically Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back all over again. That's exactly how he described it, which I thought was funny. But it starts out, Mallrats is actually the very first one. And in this one, we kind of introduce our characters. They start out as, potheads.
Yeah,
I'm sure
typical.
You've seen it. They're drug dealers sitting in front of a gas station. But I thought Mallrats was really good just because it came out over 20 years ago now. Almost 30 years ago. And so they've really been developing these characters for a while now. And in that one, they meet Brady Banky, which is Jason Lee's character, and Holden McNeil is kind of introduced in this one too. There'll be some key characters going forward with the Jay and Silent Bob storylines, but in that one, you don't really see them too much. They're just kind of introduced in that one. But then Clarks, we really get a good view of them. And you've seen Clarks, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of that one?
When I was first introduced to it, is my friend showed me, and he was like, "You have to see this movie," and I'm like, "Okay." And so when I watched it, I was like, "Wow, like this is interesting," because it's somewhat like a new age Cheech and Chong in a sense.
And it's all in black and white. I love the black and white part of it. I was hoping they did Clarks 2 that way too, but they didn't.
I didn't know it was gonna stay in black and white. I thought that was just gonna be like the beginning, like the intro or something, and it was gonna go to then it turned out the entire movie's in like black and white.
So I mentioned that there's some characters that kind of run through all of these movies. Wanted to just look at them. Jay and Silent Bob are the only ones that go through every movie, but in Clarks we introduce ourselves to Dante and Randall, which is Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson. I think I pronounced that first one correctly. They're what did you think of those characters? Because I really like those characters. Those are some of my favorite characters in all the movies.
Well, yeah. Other than Jay and Silent Bob.
Well, yeah.
They help pull it together, if that makes sense.
It gives you kind of a play. There's something to play off of because you've got these two guys over here that are the comedic part of the movie, and then the main focus on these other two guys that they kind of parody each other and give some of their opposites, give you something to play off of. Now, all these movies, and I actually did not know this at first. All of these movies are centered around this one area in New Jersey. I didn't know if maybe Kevin Smith was from there, but it reminded me of, and he actually plays into this later, of the John Hughes movies that came out in the 80s, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, that were all in Illinois. All of these movies are actually based out of New Jersey, which I thought was really cool. But after Clarks, they kind of, they're potheads again. They just kind of dance around in the background. And then we have Chasing Amy, which they're not in too much. That's where you really get introduced to Ben Affleck's character, Holden McNeil. He's the main character in that movie, and that centers around a romance with him. But we don't really have to talk too much about that one, just because they're not in it that much. I did like, and I don't know if you've seen that one. That's the only one where Silent Bob actually talks a lot. He gives like this really long speech in that one.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, how do you like the Silent Bob character? Because I think he's awesome. When he talks, he says something deep, but other than that, he's just quiet.
I feel like he's really good at, because even though he's quiet, you still understand him. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yes. I guess the facial expressions or the expressions that he does, it makes him still understandable without speaking.
And relatable. For somebody who doesn't talk, he's actually way more relatable than the other one.
And even sometimes you find yourself laughing at him. Like, it's like he doesn't say the joke, but you get the joke, Like with his expressions and everything.
Definitely. After that, we have Dogma, which is my favorite movie in the entire thing. It doesn't really fit with the rest of them, but Jay and Silent Bob are big characters in this one. They actually go from New Jersey to Shermer, Illinois, because of the John Hughes movies. In this one, they decide that they can leave the Quick Mart that they're in front of in Clarks 2 and make more money dealing drugs in Shermer, Illinois, because they saw all the John Hughes movies and realized that nobody was selling there, which I thought was really interesting. But they end up meeting up with Linda Fiorentino's character, and it's a big religion movie. It got a bunch of. I'd love to see him make a sequel to that. I know Kevin Smith said he wanted to, but I don't know if they're actually going to on that one. But that one was the first time that they're really front and center in a movie. They're not bit characters. They're the main ones. Silent Bob talks a lot more. You get a lot more of the personality in that one. Is that one you've...
I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one.
Okay. That's one I recommend. That's probably my favorite one. And then finally it's Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. They finally get their own movie. That came out in 1999. So the characters have been around for about 5 years now. And this movie was... the critics kind of panned it, but... It was a comedy, and it was good. For me, I liked it. I thought if you went into it knowing what you were getting into, I thought it was a really funny movie. What did you think of that one?
It has its own, audience, its own audience, if that makes sense. With the whole Jay and Silent Bob franchise, it's like, it's certain people who watch it, Like, it has its own demographic.
I kind of related to some of the action movies, like the Michael Bay Transformers movies. If you know what you're getting into when you go into it, they can actually be really, really fun. But and this one, and I want to talk a little bit about the plot of this one since we haven't seen the new one since it hasn't come out yet. But we do know it's basically the same movie.
Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back.
I kind of pulled a lot of the plot from the new one from the first one. And so it starts out they have a restraining order. Randall and Dante give them a restraining order from the Quick Mart. And so they're not allowed to sell there anymore. And that's when they find out about the Blunt Man and Chronic movies. What did you think about that part? Because that part was really interesting with the kind of the character within a character based on them, but their characters. And
yeah, I like how it went back to that. Even if you've only seen that one, you know where it goes. Like where the movie, like the transitions and everything, where it's gonna go with the reboot, and it gives, how can I say it? Because I want to say the wrong thing. It makes it, I don't want to say more interesting, but it gives you something to hang on to rather than coming into something new.
I see what you're saying, and this is actually the first one where they start to play off of what's going on in real life, which is something I do want to talk about later because Kevin Smith in a lot of his movies does that. But right now, actually, we are going to take a break, and when we come right back, we will be talking a little bit more about Jay and Silent Bob.
The best cancer care starts with the best cancer information. Cancer.net, the award-winning patient information website of the American Society of Clinical Oncology, empowers patients, families, and caregivers by providing timely, oncologist-approved information and resources right at their fingertips. Cancer.net offers comprehensive information on more than 120 types of cancer, side effects, coping, caregiving, clinical trials, and much more. Cancer.net also features a blog, videos, podcasts, and a mobile app. The site is designed to help people with cancer better understand the disease, from diagnosis and treatment through survivorship.
You could just rely on Cancer.net. It has very accurate information. It can give you hope. It's been a great, great resource.
For more information, visit Cancer.net and find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Cancer.net is supported by the Conquer Cancer Foundation.
Hey guys, it's Melanie Flores with this week's streaming and DVD. New to Netflix, we have Dark Crimes, starring Jim Carrey and Charlotte Gainsbourg. A hard-boiled detective becomes suspicious of an author when the incidents disturbed in his hit novel resemble the inner workings of an unsolved murder. Also coming to Netflix, we have Sinister 2, starring James Razone and Shannon Sossamon. A young mother and her twin sons move into a rural house that's marked for death. New to Hulu, we have Wounds, starring Zazie Beetz and Dakota Johnson. Disturbing and mysterious things begin to happen to a bartender in New Orleans after he picks up a phone left behind at his bar. New to DVD, we have Three from Hell, starring Sherry Moon Zombie and Bill Moseley. After being imprisoned for 10 years, the Devil Rejects are back at it again. The Rejects make their way down the road into Mexico, killing countless people in their way. Next up, we have Crawl, starring Kayla Scodelario and Barry Pepper. A young woman, while attempting to save her father, during Category 5 hurricane, finds herself trapped in a flooding house and must fight for her life against alligators. Well, that's all we have for this week's streaming and DVD. I'm Melanie Flores. Let's get you back to the picture show.
Welcome back to Picture Show. Again, I'm James Farrar. Joining me today is Shaquille Jefferson, and we are talking about the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which means we also are kind of talking about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and the other View Askew movies. Before we left, we had just started talking about how Kevin Smith plays off of reality in a lot of the movies, and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is the first time you really kind of see that, because he has the Blunt Man and Chronic characters, which are a comic book, which are becoming a movie, which is exactly what Jay and Silent Bob did with him. It was, a comic that became a movie. It kind of parallels real life, and he does that a lot in these movies. He also does a lot of pop culture references, which I thought was really interesting. What are the pop culture references that you noticed in this one?
Well, in the reboot trailer, when at the beginning when they run out of the dispensary, it's like a Silence of the Lamb reference when he pulls his pants down.
It's the second time he's done that dance.
Yeah.
Actually, he did that dance in Clerks 2 as well.
And another one is when Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, dang it, what is it? I just had it at the tip of my tongue. I forgot it.
The whole end scene is a play off Star Wars.
And I like that those little Easter eggs are in there somewhat.
Yeah, he doesn't even hide him either. Like it was Mark Hamill who plays, Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, was playing the bad guy in the movie that they were filming in the movie. It's a movie within a movie on that one. I'm not going to say his name just because it's not really appropriate for TV, but yeah, and then they do this lightsaber type fight scene at the end, which is he does that on a lot of his movies. But in this one, they're going to Hollywood, so there's a Blunt Man and Chronic movie, which they find out are characters that are based on them, that Holden McNeil, which is the Ben Affleck character, and Banky Brody that we had met in a couple movies earlier, wrote. And they want their money is how it starts out. They want to get their rights because they're using basically their names and likenesses for these other characters, and they're making a movie about it. But we end up meeting the jewel heist. Do you remember what was it? Missy, Chrissy, Sissy, and Justice. Yeah, they were my favorite ones, but I was an Eliza Dushku fan, and she was the leader of that group. So, but we meet them, and they're jewel thieves that are playing off. Animal liberators, and they get roped into this whole little side thing, and that's how they get the orangutan, which I thought was really, really fun because that's when you meet Will Ferrell's character, which is probably one of my favorite characters in this movie, the Federal Reserve or Federal Wildlife Marshal Willenholly. And I believe that's actually one of the characters, very similar to the character he plays in Land of the Lost later on. But they get to Hollywood eventually, and they're trying to stop this movie, and that's kind of what they are doing in this one too. So in the reboot, they find out that there is a Blunt Man and Chronic reboot movie called Blunt Man versus Chronic, which is again play off Batman versus Superman because Kevin Smith's a big comic book nerd, so he loves doing that sort of stuff. And of course, they're going to go to LA to stop the movie. Again, it's the exact same plot. But this time, instead of running into the group of girls, they run into Justice, which was one of the girls from the first movie. Jay's girlfriend that went to jail at the end of the first movie. And we find out that Jay has a love child that he never knew about, which played by Harley Quinn Smith, which is Kevin Smith's daughter. Which, how awesome is that? He named his daughter Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I love that. But doesn't tell her. I know from just what I've read that she doesn't find out until later on in the movie that it's his daughter or that she's his daughter. But she joins them and they get out to L.A. and this is where we get a lot of the cameos and the guest stars. Which have you seen the list of guest stars for this movie?
Yeah. It's a lot from Method Man to Redman. Rosario Dawson is in it.
And she's in a lot of them too. Yeah, she plays a different character in all of them. But it's Val Kilmer's in it. Tommy Chong is in it. Justin Long. I think Joe Manganiello plays a sheriff. They actually found footage of Stan Lee from an old Comic-Con, and so Stan Lee is in this movie. He passed away like a year ago now. But this is where you really see, and that's what they did in the first movie too. With all the cameos and the guest appearances, which I really like. But they get out to Hollywood, and then we get Matt Damon comes in and Ben Affleck, which is the same thing they did in the first movie. I don't know if you remember that part. They're doing Good Will Hunting 2 hunting season. And then they've got Blunt Man and Chronic are played by, and they reappear in this one too, as Jason Vanderbeek and Jason Biggs from American Pie. So they're making cameo appearances as well. They get out to Hollywood and they go to stop the movie, just like they did in the first one. And a big fight battle ensues. And it turns out his daughter has a best friend who is a Russian spy. It gets really complicated after that. The daughter's friend is a Russian spy who's sent to stop movies or something like that. So I'm real interested to see how they do it. But I think that's kind of where the similarities end between the two movies. But I want to talk a little bit. Well, actually, first we're going to take another break real quick. We do have a Friday Flick Pick coming up. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about the production behind the movie and some of the things that they did behind the scenes.
If your family is like most, the kitchen is your home's central gathering place. Now, homeowners are looking to enhance their kitchen's appeal with a timeless and transitional design that also makes a personal statement. A recent survey of top architects and designers found that when it comes to kitchens, neutrals win the game. The experts see this trend not only in paint choice and cabinetry, but in sinks as well. Meeting that need is a new Sil Granite sink color, Concrete Gray from Blanco. Clean, organic, and extremely balanced, the shade is at home in both urban and natural settings. Making it easier than ever to pick the best sink for your kitchen, Blanco offers an app that helps match sinks and countertops. You can even take a photo of a countertop to add it to the app and match the sinks to that selection. As for the kitchens of tomorrow, the designers predict smart appliances controlled by smartphones and an edgy technology-based look. Learn more at BlancoAmerica.com.
Hey movie lovers, this is Kaylee Kennedy with this week's Friday Flick Pick. Maleficent and her goddaughter Aurora begin to question the complex family ties that bind them as they are pulled in different directions by impending nuptials, unexpected allies, and dark new forces at play. Let's take a look at the trailer.
5 years ago, I thought I lost you forever. There is no curse that could ever tear me away from you. Will you marry me?
Yes.
Misters, I have a little bit of news.
Don't ruin my morning.
Philip asked me to marry him.
No.
I wasn't really asking.
Nor was I. Love doesn't always end well, Beastie.
Trust me. Let us prove you wrong.
You have done an admirable job going against your own nature to raise this child. But now, she will finally get the love of a real mother. Tonight, I consider Aurora my own.
There is no union. There will be no wedding.
What have you done?
We go home now. Aurora!
Maleficent is a threat to everyone. We'll do our best to protect you.
Well, well.
One can never be too careful.
This isn't you. You do not know me.
Tell me what happened.
There was another creature.
You've spent years caring for a human. Now it's time to care for your own.
That movie looks amazing. I'm Kayla Kennedy. Let's get you back to the picture show.
Welcome back into the picture show. Again, I'm James Farrar, joined by Shaquille Jefferson today, and we've been talking about the Viewisk universe and the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I don't know how much more we can really say about that just because it has not come out yet. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff with this one, because a lot went on behind the scenes on this one. I don't know if you know, but all of the other movies were actually produced by the Weinstein Company and Harvey Weinstein. So this is the first movie since all of that happened that's not being produced by that company. So that's they had some interesting some interesting problems getting it made, and with the advertising, because I haven't really seen. I don't know how much TV you watch.
Yeah, like
I haven't seen any.
I didn't even know that they were doing like
the
a
advertising
reboot.
almost been non-existent for this one, and that probably has something to do with the change in production companies. But they did all of their filming in New Orleans for this one, which is a first. They've normally filmed in Minnesota, I think. Then they did a movie release tour, which is what I wanted to talk about, which, normally when a movie comes out, the actors or the directors, the big names will go on the talk shows and make the rounds, that sort of thing. Well, what they did is they went on like a Comic-Con style panel tour through different cities with Jason Mewes, Kevin Smith, and I think Ben Affleck made a couple of appearances at some. Some of the other smaller characters made some appearances. But from what I was reading, it was kind of a first of its time thing, and they were thinking maybe more people are going to do this. What would you like that better? Like, would you prefer the talk show thing, or would you actually go to like a panel type thing and learn about it?
I would actually go to the panel before like viewing into the talk show, because it's more up close and personal.
And it's Q&A. You get to ask questions.
You get to ask the question.
It's all so rehearsed.
Yeah.
And and all that. Now, this movie has gotten horrible reviews so far. It's got a 46 on Rotten Tomatoes and like a 4 out of 10 on IMDb. And we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. I kind of like these movies. I think if you go into them knowing what you're getting yourself into and you're not expecting, Schindler's List, I think they can be funny.
It's made for a certain audience. It's not made for everyone, and it's just geared towards certain people.
Yeah. Anybody that gives it a 4 out of 10, I probably shouldn't have gone in. They probably didn't know what they were getting into to begin with. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is just kind of a Kevin Smith thing, because he does have a lot of the same actors in all of his movies, and Ben Affleck is one of them. I didn't know, and I had found out on this one, that before this movie, they actually had a falling out. They hadn't spoken in almost a decade before this movie, and this movie is what really brought them back together, Kevin Smith and Ben Affleck, which I thought was really cool. Kevin Smith said it was because he told too many stories about his famous friend. I'm thinking he probably got him in trouble.
Yeah.
But that's going to be all the time that we have for today. Thank you to Shaquille for joining us. Again, I'm James Farrar. If you want to see the movie, it actually comes out at Tinseltown and Boardwalk both at 7 o'clock tonight. They're doing a special double feature with Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, and then the premiere of Reboot. And then I think it starts regular showings Friday all day at both theaters. So I'm going to go check it out. I think it's going to be funny. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm looking forward to it. Be sure to join us next week when I'll actually be back. Paige Werner is going to be joining me next week. We're going to be talking about Zombieland Double Tap, so I'm really excited for that one. I think that's going to be a good show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shaquille, thank you for, did you want to add anything else?
Go see it. I say go see it. I feel like everyone, just go see it. With no expectations.
I mean, I don't know what else to add to that. So I'm going to say thank you for joining us, and my name is James Farrar, and we will see you next time.